everyone, and welcome to another episode of UnMasked, the podcast where we talk about depression in its most rawest form. Today we have a special guest, and kind of a little bit not our usual topics, but definitely very important when it comes to mental health and where you can channel some of these negative things that happen to you. CJ Davidson, welcome to the show.
Hey Brody, how are you?
Not too bad, man. How you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me this evening.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, so let's give us the 30-second pitch. Who is CJ?
Oh goodness, what a question. I'll use 8 seconds hopefully. I live in Dallas currently. I'm a financial services representative by trade. I help people manage their wealth and the emotional connection with money that's prevailing the world today. I have 3 wonderful little dogs and a beautiful girlfriend that I live with in Dallas, and I spend most of my time traveling to my different offices around the country and in Brazil, helping my team grow and reach individuals for the things we do. How was that?
That was very good. That was very good. If I recall, you had a pretty interesting we'll call it experience and how you actually fell into starting your own business.
Yeah, so I kind of came into financial services haphazardly. I came from a very kind of blue-collar family. My dad works for a carpet company, and my father is in construction. I went to college and was in a construction major because I wanted to follow in my stepfather's footsteps. And when I was at a baseball game, actually, one day, I met an individual that was in financial services in New York City, and we ended up becoming friends, and we spent a summer, a good friend and I, out in New York City, kind of following him around and him mentoring us a little bit and showing us the ropes. And I was like, you know what? Like, I love this industry, but there's a lot of like kind of weird, kind of shady people. Like, that's not part of my DNA. If I came out here and I'm just like kind of a good person and educate myself, I think I would have a bit of a competitive advantage. So I ended up, right after I graduated with my best friend, packing up and moving to New York with no money in pocket and a desire to get into the financial services, and spent 10 years in Manhattan kind of grinding and doing the old school approach to financial services. They start you with nothing, they give you nothing, they give you a cubicle and charge you for it and say, have at it, hopefully you make it. And I was fortunate. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to play the California card right and play the let's do the right thing no matter what card back then. And it played really well in a very, very competitive environment. And I'm happy to say that, I kind of stayed true to my morals and maybe grew my business a little bit slower than my peers after the start. But I did it in a way that kind of has lasted my entire career now. So that's how it started. I was the California boy that went back east and I had hair like I do today. Actually, I grew this out during the pandemic, and it's going away soon as I can donate it. But my girlfriend hates it. But I was a long-haired kid getting out of college from San Diego. Like, everything's cool, no bad days, and came into a very ferocious industry and learned a lot. A lot of pain, but a lot of learning. And I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by a lot of content and advice. My mentor that I randomly met happens to be one of the most ethical and integral people in the industry that I've still met to this day, right? He could exist in an environment that was questionable and really keep his integrity and go home to his family and look him in the eye and say, I'm a good person. And that was really difficult in a lot of the environments that I was in. Some of the movies and stuff is very true. And to have that, and to have the things that he and other individuals in my life that I clung to give me content to help me kind of stay true was incredibly imperative. And it's shaped me into who I am today. And it's created a competitive advantage. But it was difficult. And people all often, I have a good friend that always says this, they all often mistake my kindness for a weakness. And that put me through a lot of different, situations and environments that I had to question my integrity on a regular basis. So it was difficult. Yeah.
So being someone that puts people first, doing the right thing by the client, how did that mesh with the traditional, approach and attitudes of old school Wall Street? How did that affect you?
So if you turn on like a golf tournament or whatever television show that has a lot of these dumb commercials for financial services companies, everyone looks like they have everything figured out, and they're all about making sure you're successful, and the catchwords, and one says something cool and it metastasizes all the way across the industry, right, in the marketing and brand. But when you open up the door and you actually see what's going on, there's obviously people that are great and have integrity and are doing things the right way. But the majority of the focus is not on the client-advisor relationship, not on serving, which is what we do, right? But on profit margin, on profitability, on how can we make the most money and utilize widgets in a pattern that creates more value, right? And it had nothing to do with what we're doing at the end of the day. So it was a big disconnect, and it was really difficult, right? And I'll say even further, a lot of times when you're successful in our business, you meet this fork in the road where you have to either continue to do things the hard way and the right way. My company calls it the Proxy way. That's kind of our motto that tethers us anywhere we are. Or you can kind of sell yourself and do what you're told and make more money quicker. And if you're a good person, go home questioning yourself on a regular basis, right? And it's difficult to choose that right way. And I think maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 choose that right way when they become successful. So you have this big funnel, right? You have people that are just not great and can't look at money and say, do the right thing instead of go for profit in the very beginning when you're funneling down. But then you meet this point of success where you have to, again, face that precipice. And you understand, and you're knowledgeable at that point, and you understand the repercussions of both even better and even greater from a monetary perspective. It's difficult. It's difficult to get through your whole career and be hyper successful without selling yourself, if you will.
You see, you're surrounded by people that do this on a daily basis. You know, they put profit ahead of people. What was it like going to the office every day and watching that? You know, like, does it make you angry? Like, did you want to throw something at the wall? Like, how did that play out?
So there was 1,000 ways you can take it, and I saw the different ways that different people took it, right? They saw, and then they got to choose that fork in the road very quickly. I was fortunate enough to where I was told, like, you're not allowed to go to the 41st floor, right? Like, that floor is off limits. The people that are there, you don't hang out with them. Like, don't ask why. Like, it was like you're 13 and you can't go out after dark. You're like, why can't I go out after dark? I don't get it. Like, I ride my bike well. Like, I can see, right? So I was sheltered a little bit on purpose, but I'd have to go downstairs for every now and then, or I'd get partnered with things as I became more successful. And it was difficult because, you know, I'm in an industry where if you Google what I do, the first 15 things are negative, and the first 15 things represent the 70% of the industry that is real out there, right? But at the same time, like, life is about how you react to things, and you have the choice when something comes your way in most cases to choose how it affects or if it's real or not, right? And I chose to take that as a competitive opportunity for me to double down on being a good person, right? And again, like, there are environments, and when I moved from New York back to California, it was because I had to, right? Because I made decisions to go that route that weren't, you know, very appreciated by people that were making a lot of money on my hard work. So, you know, it requires you to have and get through a lot of things that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily prepare yourself otherwise for, against or in opposition to people that are far more believable and have been through way more than you in most cases. That's very common in our industry. It's difficult, right? If you're unsuccessful, you're thrown away. If you're successful, you have to go through more even sometimes. So it's not the right way the business should, but it is the old school way, as you say. So
you made the decision to walk away from something that could be lucrative, something that, you know, like a lot of people aspire to be, to go and do your own thing. Like, I'd be anxious as hell, to be honest. I mean, it's a big jump, you know, like what was going through your head, man? Like, how did you handle that?
I mean, it still worries me, right? My worry now is about the 60 people that look to me, and their livelihood is dependent on my consistency, not just me, right? I can't hide it anymore. It's a different level of anxiety, but again, it was the relentless kind of decision to put the blinders on and understand that you're going through the hard way to do this instead of the easy path, because you want to be level and true with yourself, right? Like, there's a lot about your vital energy and your ability to sustain your vital energy long term, and it fizzles a lot when you sell yourself. And I'm willing to go through the hard work, but I'm not willing to like fizzle my capability as a human, right? And it was difficult, and going through that and going through those challenging times, especially in the beginning, where I had to take the consistency out of my practice, right? And I had to resell myself in some cases to people that formerly trusted me, that I'm going on this journey and I'd like you to come with me. And then to get the initial people to buy into my, what I still am told are crazy ideas that are turning out to be not so crazy, but are still crazy, right? Like, it's difficult because, and I'm not necessarily the strongest, like, I grew up without much confidence, right? I was overweight, I was picked on when I was young, like the common story, right? So I'm not built with a foundation where, like, I was the kid that hit home runs in T-ball, right? Like, you wouldn't see it now that I was overweight, but like, it was a very difficult process young. So I have constantly had to self-motivate and become the person that I want to be, because I've decided that there is a problem, and although other people can solve it, I think that I'm the right chemical mix to kind of lead that journey. And in making that decision, like, and knowing that I can probably take on more, because our advisors in California, for example, they haven't experienced the type of industry that Manhattan, New York City did 15 years ago, right? And I never want them to experience that trauma, right? And the only way I know to do that, and the only way I've been taught to do that, is to spend as much time as possible seeing if somebody else can do it better. And if you can, gravitate towards that individual. And if you can't, then do it yourself, right? And that's really difficult, because I feel like there aren't many companies and aren't many individuals that are trying to really like provide that environment where people aren't going to get hosed and aren't going to get traumatized or hurt by this industry, because this is extremely important. Conversations I've had today with clients were not about money 90% of the time, and the amount of access I have to their true self is extremely important, that I take that seriously. And if we, morph into this environment in financial services where we don't care about that emotional connection, and we don't empower advisors to not be drugged through the mud to earn that type of relationship and that type of service as a profession, then we're doing the wrong thing, right? That's the problem right now, is that the industry doesn't care how bad they beat up the advisor, because they don't care about the advisor. Where that advisor is the crucial point in their journey to becoming a trustworthy person to help counsel and guide people through the trauma of their financial life, is something that shouldn't be dealt with through traumatic experience and pushing you and hazing like they do, right? It should be a nurturing environment where we understand each person and then go from there.
Let's take a step back. So you're talking about when you were beginning this journey, you're asking potential investors or partners for money to come on board, because you have this crazy vision. But you made a good point of identifying trauma from when you're a kid, but using that to identify gaps in your professional DNA now. So you went out, you got self, you learned things, you obviously educated yourself. Like what did you do there? Was it a combination of you went out and self-educated? Did you speak to a therapist? Did you seek a mentor?
It was definitely the mentorship. I think at every step in my professional career, I've found somebody that does the business the way that I would want to do the business, and held them. The ranch clock is going. Sorry.
I can hear that.
My parents' house. It's adorable, but it's a long-winded chime. Like I said, I was very fortunate to have mentors that kind of guided me, and not just like the things they told me and the ways they pushed me, but the ways that they acted. Like it's so much more important, I think, to like live a certain way, especially in these types of environments. It's not Like if my mentors would have been loose and then told me like, hey, don't do it the way I do it, I would have done it the way they did it. But the fact that they were able to push through and lead by example, that was imperative to my success. I was lucky in that the people that I emulated were good people, right? Like they looked out for my well-being. The people that I worked with, right? Not the people that mentored me, but the people I worked with, I misinterpreted their partnership as mentorship, and they were very much concerned with making money, right? Not people. So that misinterpretation taught me a lot. Maybe more than anything, taught me to be a leader that was transparent about what's important, so that you never think about that and you're never in an environment where you can second guess that, right? Like, it's a foregone conclusion that won't be part of your reality, but it's different when it's said and it's felt, right? And then you can act accordingly.
Yeah.
So it was the mentorship and the partnership for sure. And I think it was seeing too, like, the flagrance of other people and how I get third party embarrassed a lot. I don't know where that's from. We can talk about that for an hour. But I get, like, if I watch like a sitcom and it's like a certain way, I'm like, oh, like I don't even want to watch this anymore. It makes me like I'm third party embarrassed for you. Right?
Same thing, man. Same thing happens to me all the time.
It's like I don't know what chemicals released in us, but I'm like that all the time. So it's like it was so cringe, as the kids say, when I saw these things. I was like, I was empowered. Like, I can be a good person and just stay consistent, and it'll be good. But again, like, you get blindsided in this industry, and my goal is to create an environment where you can't get blindsided, because at the end of the day, we're here to help people, and I could have helped a lot more people if I didn't get blindsided. So let's find all those people that were like me, that are good people, and make sure they never get touched in that way again. Like, let's keep them safe.
You've gone out, you've done this awesome thing. You've gone out on your own, like you've started Proxy, and you've brought in people that have pretty diverse backgrounds, but like they're not from happy places, I guess. Like, what kind of people have you kind of been bringing in? What are their stories, and what made you bring together that type of team?
So I think I was fortunate in that life and the way that my experience transpired into what I show the world attracted certain people, right? Like, in the beginning, there were individuals that I was really interested in joining the company and being a part of the initial things, and some people that were part of the company. But those individuals didn't have the same values and didn't have the same mindset, right? They were really good at being a professional, right? But they didn't have the same DNA in that they came from an environment where they have felt the pain of doing things the wrong way or been treated a certain way, and bring that into an environment where they want to make sure they protect people against it ever happening again, right? And I lost a couple of people that didn't experience that were great at what they do. But when I look now, and we do a leadership retreat once a quarter where we all get together. We're everywhere around the country, so we never really see each other other than like this. So we were getting together, and I had this moment in last time we got together where I just kind of looked around and I was like, the diversity and the differentiation in each one of these individual humans is phenomenal. And it gives us amazing perspective in the tight group that we are. But those perspectives each came from a place where there weren't happy stories, right? In one way, shape, or form, each of these individuals was taken advantage of, or they were told one thing and then something else happened without their control that was probably predetermined, right? They were taken advantage of and not treated like a human. And I think that we found individuals that, kind of like me, had taken that kind of incident or that experience and said, never again, and to never anyone that I respect, right? If anybody that respects this craft crosses my path and they're experiencing that again, I will make sure it's never happened. It will never happen. And having that environment and being around that, we don't talk about it ever, right? And we sometimes interview people and we kind of go off on tangents. We're like, oh yeah, but I know that the decision making and the way that we treat people and the way that we serve people is based on that trauma and us deciding that that inflection point is not going to break us, but it's going to make us purpose-driven instead of just good at what we do, right? Like, the people I surround myself with are phenomenal. They're far smarter than I am. It's far more accomplished. Like, I'm very, very, very lucky. My best tether to them is we've all experienced things on our journey and chosen the right path and been kind of scorched by that and persevered through it. And our culture, the Proxy way, is to do the right thing every single time, no matter what, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, and we challenge people to do that because everything is about making sure that that environment produces your ability to be doing that confidently. And if we don't respect you and we don't understand how to make sure you never get into those environments, then we're failing, right? Our business model is not about margins and how much we can squeeze and widgets. It's about unlocking the true potential and understanding the human and where they came from so that they can be on a better path. And we have like 20 of those stories in the company. It's really cool. And there's great people out there that have been through crap and they're almost broken and they're almost recoiled completely. And it's like, that's my favorite because there's people that trust them with their financial life. They know nothing about what they've gone through. And come to them every quarter and say, please, like, make sure that I can live a life of success. And they are consistent and phenomenal. And then they turn around and the people that are making money off of their expertise and their heart are destroying them, right? That is, that's why I'm here today. That's why we're talking. But that's a big deal. And all of us having that common bond allows us to be greater than the sum of our parts, right? Type of thing. And it's because of our common tether. And it's because, like, we were in a position or something happened where we responded that way when we were faced with that, but it's real in our industry. And too many times, like, good people are left by the wayside. It's probably not just our industry, my industry, right? That's probably a commonality that you can tether to anything in our life, right?
So if you talk about the client-customer relationship, obviously you're going to have some really great customers that are like, they're great to your advisors. You're going to have some duds at some point as well. You're going to have some ones that aren't great people, that aren't great communicators. How do you foster that culture of, like, support for the advisor when they do have, say a client that is being an asshole? How do you go about supporting the advisor?
It's all about serving, right? I talk a lot and I harp a lot about great service, right? We can only control a few things. We can control how you serve someone. You can control how attentive you are, right? I think one of the big parts of, like, be a good person, competitive advantage is, like, the industry is getting lazy. Like, customer service, even in my and your lifetime, although not 50 years, right? We've seen a evolution in the way we're even served in many aspects of our life, right? It's impossible to go to the mall and have somebody look you in the eye as you're buying a pair of sneakers. It's weird, right? It's a different environment and a different sense of pride in doing for others. It's important when you look to the client relationship to make sure that you're focused on serving the client first. And the trust is built, I think, especially when you set yourself apart from your peers. A lot of people in our industry are not great at service. I was talking to my co-founder on my drive home last night. We were geeking out a little bit, and he's like, we're getting a lot of phone calls right now, but nobody's really mad. And he's like, you know what happened? We've been doing really good serving our clients, and now they call us for everything. And it's like, that's what we want, right? That's empowering our client. But at the end of the day, it's busy right now. But it's a form of success because we've built that relationship where they trust us to do the right thing by them. And you're not calling us and avoiding us trying to sell you something, right? We're here to understand what uniquely you are looking to accomplish and then to build a plan and a roadmap to get you there as successfully with as least volatility as possible. And volatility means, like, stress on your life, not the stock market, right? That's everything. And it's impossible for us to do that unless we really know the client. So the best way to get to that trust point is to set yourself apart in the way that you serve. You can say great things. I've probably said some cool things and some weird things tonight, right? But until I show you right? Until I act and I serve you, it's useless, because this day and age, everybody's really good at talking, but no one really wants to put in the hard work. Do the right thing every single time, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That means, like, when something's annoying, do it faster than your peer. That sets you apart now. That builds trust. It's amazing how much you can control that. So it's an opportunity, right? But it's hard with a stranger. And you don't, a lot of people that we compete with are trying to sell something or get to an agenda or get to an end point where they can capitalize. We really, our job is to convince clients that we're not going to get there eventually. Like, the goal is really to get to know you and really to understand you as a human, right? Because there's going to be a mathematical way for you to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Yeah. But then there's you as a human. And unless I know you as a human, I can't tweak that mathematically efficient product or you're not going to be able to use it correctly.
I come from a product management background, so everything's planned. There's a roadmap, like it's this, and this. And when things don't go to plan, I go crazy and I get anxiety. Same goes when I'm planning, my finances or, what I want to do, 10 years from now. It's like, if I am sitting across from somebody and I don't have that connection with them, that they don't understand what I'm trying to accomplish in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I'm going to leave the room. I'm going to have a complete fucking mental breakdown. I'm out. And I think that's something that has been missing in, especially in financial services, but customer service in general, is the fact that companies don't give a shit about their customers anymore. It's all about how much money can we squeeze from them? Can we squeeze another penny? How can we improve our bottom line? It's stuff like that. People don't actually just look at customers right now as actual people with the same goals, the same, aspirations as what they do.
You're spot on 100%, right? It's phenomenal. I've been in the business 17 years now, so I have clients that are 17 years my client now, right? And even clients where I've called them every 90 days for 17 years, right? April 1st, you're getting a call. We're setting up a meeting. And we're going to review every 90 days. Late March, right? I have a good amount of clients that will start emailing me, hey, are we going to do our review this quarter? It's programmed into their brain that if they don't go every 90 days and get a reassurance and a check-in, that things are going to fly off the handle. You're not abnormal. That is why our mandate says we need to meet with the client every year. It should be that we have to meet with the client every quarter, and we should meet every month, right? Depending on the client. I have clients that I talk to every other Friday. We sit down with a piece of paperwork, and we look at it, and I go, okay, have a good weekend, thank you, right? I have clients that we did that weekly for a year, and now they're like, stop calling, I love you, But each individual should be treated like an individual, and the only way to be successful is to build a relationship where they can trust you. Period. This industry is not like the medical profession, right? To some extent, you go to a doctor and you have to trust what they say because they're a doctor. This industry is much looser, right? People can get away with making bad recommendations. You can't go to a doctor and they can prescribe you a medication and it's wrong and they don't get in trouble. Here, you can be like, oh yeah, you're aggressive. Let's put you in some stocks and they're wrong. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, the stock market, right? It's a different bar. Right? And people get away with things. I have a therapist and I love them, but when I first met them, the first couple of meetings, you could tell they were reading the notes as they walked into the meeting. It's you're never going to get through to me. I'm never going to trust or do anything that you tell me unless I believe that you understand me and you care about me and we have a connection, right? I'm smarter than that.
Interesting you bring up the therapy thing because I hear that a lot, especially with my friends when I've recommended hey, just go see a therapist. If you're not going to talk to me, if you're not going to talk to your girlfriend, your wife, go talk to a therapist. And they all say the same things. I spoke to somebody, but I just didn't feel like they gave a fuck. They just, you're sitting in a room, they're writing down notes, tell me about your childhood and tell me about your relationship with your mom. It's all the same cliche stuff. They don't feel like they're actually building that relationship with you. But some therapists are great. You hear some stories where people have walked in and I had one session and now I feel great. I don't need to go for another year. But you have even some of my friends now, they cycle through therapists like, their socks. It's like 4 weeks here, 6 weeks there. It's like, yeah, I just don't like this guy, or I can't connect with this woman. I just don't feel like she cares. But no, it's a really interesting point you bring up there.
What a competitive advantage, and how many people will leave someone that they think honestly cares about them, or how about actually honestly cares about them, right? Or they're not pretending.
Yeah.
Right, that's everything.
Exactly.
And it's sad that we boiled down our service industry to like, are you faking it or not? Right? Like, that's our bar.
Yeah.
That's our bar. That's what we have to live up to. Like, I'm not lying to you.
Let's talk about Proxy. So, you've built this culture of doing the right thing. You've brought in people that, have had kind of, traumatic things happen to them, to encourage them to do the right thing. What is your plan for this? What is your end goal?
I think hopefully a lot of successful people look at what they're good at and say, how can I turn this into a way to unlock what my heart wants me to do, right? So if you're asking me personally, I don't want to sell this company. I'm not trying to build something that I sell for $1 billion, right? I want to create a safe haven for good people to do good business, and eventually have that be next to, or not necessarily in competition with, but a relevant kind of side by side with all of the traditional ways of doing this business. I don't anticipate us becoming a large bank or doing anything astronomical, but I do expect for when people think about where they want to hang their hat and build their career, that our company is a differentiated opportunity and option for those people. I would like to be able to provide a way educationally to give other options to young professionals other than the traditional 4-year college. So start them young, right? Like, I want to capture advisors and financial professionals before they've even hit the ground. They get their general education and they go straight, instead of a major at a 4-year university, they come to Proxy University and they learn how to be a true fiduciary and truly serve. Heavy psychology, heavy emotional, intelligence-based, and heavy finance-based, where it should be, right? In that proper meridian of balance.
CJ, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate, the things that you've said, things we've talked about. But I mean, you've definitely given me a little bit more faith in the financial services world. I've dealt with a lot with it there. The New York Lifes and the Wells Fargos of the world. Proxy Wealth, man. It sounds like it sounds like a big step in the right direction. How people should be looking at finances and creating that client customer relationship, as today's episode has demonstrated. Not all financial services firms out there are sharks. There are good people out there that actually do care about you. Ever need advice, or just want to find out what your plan might be, check out Proxy Wealth. CJ, again, thank you so much for coming on.